Welcome to the LDHR Podcast, where ministry leaders grow together. In this series, Across the Ages, we are taking a deeper look at the staff life cycle, how those from different generations perceive it, and the expectations they have regarding the 6 phases: recruitment, application, onboarding, development, retention, and separation. Diving into each aspect, we hope to uncover what each generation craves to be truly known, needed, and have a future within the organization. We have 4 amazing panelists from 4 different generations to help us identify general principles while providing practical steps that those in LDHR can implement immediately in their various contexts. In this first episode, we'll explore the recruitment aspect of a staff member's journey. We're so glad you're here. Welcome to the LDHR Podcast. I'm so excited to introduce our guest today, as we have not 1, but 4 guests with us. For our panel today, we have Andrea Buczynski, Jeff Shave, Kelly Valencia, and Gordon Ramachandruni. Would each of you please share just a little bit about yourselves, including the generation you belong to, where you live, and what your current work role is?
I'm Andrea Buczynski. I live in Orlando, Florida, and I'm a boomer. I've been around for a while. My current role is leadership development consultant and coach.
Great. Welcome, Andrea.
Hi, I'm Jeff Shave. I live in the best city in the world, in London, of course, and I working with Agape UK, doing the church engagement lead role, working alongside churches, and I am Gen X.
Welcome, Jeff.
I'm Kelly Valencia. I am a Gen X/millennial. I'm right on the line, so you might call me a Zennial. I'm currently in Orlando, Florida, and serving as regional leader for Latin America and the Caribbean in LDHR.
Welcome, Kelly.
My name is Gordon. I representing Gen Zs. My current role is I'm Bridges field staff, as well as I'm a member of South Asian Network team with Bridges. I'm from Sacramento, California.
Again, welcome to all of you. I'm really glad you're here today. And while each of you is part of a different generation, we recognize that listeners may have different experiences based on their cultural backgrounds and circumstances, and that's okay. Each of you, our panelists, will simply bring your lived experiences, how they relate to the typical processes all employees may encounter within an organization, and how we can learn from you to improve the ways we make staff feel known and needed across generations throughout their journeys with us. So the reality is there really are 4 generations now in the workforce, and each one is looking for something different when considering a new opportunity or new role. But the truth is, recruitment isn't just about a job posting. It's really about how people feel seen and valued and understood from that first interaction. So for each of you, when you think about the time you were recruited to our organization or to a new role, what made you feel seen and excited about the organization or role?
I can get us started. I think the first time I showed up at a meeting, it was several months, maybe a year after I was introduced to a small group. And so I was a little bit nervous about showing up at a movement meeting. And as I was introducing myself, I met one of the staff and she looked at me and she went, "Oh, you're Andrea. I have prayed for you." And, I was a little bit nervous about that because I don't know who these people are or what she's doing. But the fact that they cared for people who were there was amazing. A year later, another staff woman, we were in something like a life objectives seminar. And she leaned over to me and she said, "I haven't had breakfast yet. Have you?" And I said, "No." And she goes, "Okay, this part is boring. Let's go get breakfast." So little did I know I was stepping, like, if I can use the expression, out of the pan into the fire, because now she had me one-on-one. And as we sat and had breakfast, her opening question was, "Andrea, I just want to know if you have considered joining staff." And I just looked at her and said, "No, of course not." She began to talk about all the reasons why I should, how she saw me as qualified what life would be like and all those kinds of things. So it was a very personal invitation in the midst of an organizational opportunity.
Wow. Yeah, really personal, really know you well.
The breakfast line really got me. Yeah.
Nobody bought me breakfast, but for me, it was a personal discipleship from somebody who was on the staff team. And I just noticed the quality of the staff that I was interacting with and how much they were committed to the Great Commission and seemed to love Jesus more than me. And so that sort of was very attractive. There was sort of people full of faith and just hearing their stories of how God was using them and hearing that testimony. So that was great. And then being drawn into situation, I felt seen because people gave me opportunities to try something out and to have a go at things that kind of took me out of my comfort zone, but felt, I guess, a bit trusted with stuff. So people kind of saw maybe potential in me. And so that was exciting to have that kind of focus of people around me.
That's great. Personal and also kind of giving those opportunities to try things out, to have a go. That's really empowering.
Yeah, I think kind of two different times in my staff life. When I first, quote, was recruited to staff, I sort of came to Crew on my own, just so drawn to Bill Bright's vision and Win the Campus Today, Win the World Tomorrow, totally tugged on my heart. And the simplicity, but very direct win, build, send vision was that got me excited about working with this organization. But then I think it was 12 years in to being on staff. So after having lived through being a single staff and getting married and having young kids, when I had the opportunity to someone pour into me and help me discover kind of my unique contribution, that was really when I felt super seen and that I had a specific place in the organization.
For me, it's a very long story. I came from different country to here as an international student, and then I went to a Bible college. I did not go to a secular college, but I somehow introduced to this international student ministry on campus, and we used to have talks like, "Hey, they saw my passion," and I never thought I don't know anything about student ministry or campus ministry. I was thinking to become a pastor or something because of my studies. But never I thought to become a missionary on campus. And slowly I really thank this director and local staff who always encouraged me to join the staff. And that was very encouraging. I saw many students whom in India I cannot reach them. Here they are coming to the United States and they are becoming Christians, which made me, oh wow, this is the real ministry and people are coming to the Lord. I really appreciate Crew for doing all those things. And then they sent me to orientation and where again as a Gen Z, I was like, I'm very defensive mode. I was like, man, they said everything, but they never told about raising support. I thought they will pay me salary. So I was
No.
like, the process is so far great. And then suddenly they said I need to raise support to become staff. I was like, again, going back, no, 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 this is not what I expected. But again, staff came forward, they stepped front, and all the leaders came. They said, Gordon, if God called you for this ministry, He will support you. You will raise the support. I was like, no, I don't have any faith. Like for whole my education, it's all hardly I spent $25,000. For 2 months, I need to raise the triple amount, which is I don't have family here. I don't have friends here. I have few church members, but this is very hard. I thought, but their prayers, their support, and they were standing with me during that hard time. I definitely feel it's a very hard time raising that much support, but God helped me to raise, and now I see God is all through this process. Yeah. So, yeah, I definitely feel the leaders and the staff were with me and explaining me because with no knowledge about campus ministry, no knowledge about missions, they step forward and explaining each step. I feel I'm seen through this process.
Mm. One of the things I appreciated along the way is as I had questions like you did, Gordon, about the support, was hearing the stories of how God was faithful to the staff who have raised support or who had challenging circumstances around discerning their calling or issues with their family. It made me feel like, okay, I'm not the only one who's ever had to deal with some of this stuff and to see sort of the faithfulness of God in the middle of that.
That's great. That's really encouraging to hear all of you of just the level of just being very personable and being seen by the certain individuals who are like,
Mm,
"Hey, why don't you consider doing this?" and trusting you with things. But just also that vision of like, "This is what we're joining, this is what we're doing," and still feeling supported when challenges came, like you
mm,
shared, Gordon and Andrea, some of the realities of the challenges of staff life and raising support. Yeah, really being seen is what I'm hearing from you guys in that process. So, what do you guys think is kind of that right balance or tension between personalization and professionalism in this whole kind of recruitment process?
Well, the reality is you need both, right? And
Mhm.
because I think even though occasionally we might get surprised about a piece of information like raising support, it's so central to who we are that you hope that would come out and not be a surprise when you show up for orientation, right? But you also need to be able to show people. It's been interesting to hear the stories because I think in almost every case, someone helped us see that we could have a place serving in the Great Commission with crew. Whether in my case, when it came on staff, you had to take a typing test. If you were a proficient typist, you could be assigned to the headquarters. And so they help you see there's a place for you, whether it's on the field or in the office. We want to kind of put your skills to work. So somehow I think that balance between personal and professional is important.
What immediately came to my mind seeing this question was incorporating our God-given talents into what we're doing, and it's not the same across the board. We're to know our strengths and to be able to not just know them, but incorporate them. It's life-giving, and I feel like it makes us better at what we do, and for longevity's sake, keeps us going longer. So I think once I learned to be aware of my talents and strengths and incorporate that more and not and get over the comparison factor, that is big for me. I think it helps me in my professionalism.
That's great.
And you want people to respect the job, respect the organization, but you want the care. And I think this sort of gracious accountability as you're sort of exploring whether God is moving you towards joining the organization. And we do want people who would say, yeah, I want to be part of something that's professional, but at the same time, people who care for me or see me and know my particular contribution to the ministry as we've been talking about. And people who would call out the best in me going to be growing and developing. And there may be deadlines for application, and you want people to understand why there are deadlines because your HR department they have their own processes and timelines they're working to and things like that. And so you want people to kind of respect the job, but understand this is a ministry of people who are under grace. We have a way we need to work together to get the best out of each other, and moving towards the objectives and the things that we feel God has called us to.
I love that phrase that you used, Jeff, that, people around you calling out the best in you.
mm.
Because it takes it a bit beyond the professional and like straight to the heart of the matter. 'Cause what we're doing is life changing for those individuals who are involved with us. So I love that. Thank you.
I think for me, professionalism is with targets and goals, but the relational leadership, which I can't find that in any other secular jobs here. That kind of questions makes me, yes, as a professional, we have targets, sharing gospel and meeting students. That is completely professional. I feel like relational leadership, which encourages us and brings more trust towards the organization. Yeah, with the Gen Zs, I think trust is more important. Otherwise, our mind won't work. We are disconnected.
Yeah. It is interesting. It sounds actually very similar what you guys are saying, even across generations. Like we are looking for both. We need that professionalism, and that's really important. There are deadlines, like you said, Jeff. There are HR processes that need to be followed, and there is personalization that I think our organization has done well in a lot of areas. We can always grow and learn more, but that it sounds like each of you are expressing like that is something that you guys want both of from an organization.
I will say, like, over my time on staff, I've seen a shift from say, like, when I joined, you needed to be willing to go anywhere, do anything, serve in any role, and you didn't have any indication for preference. And so over time, I think we've hit a better balance between individual gifting, calling, and desires and organizational need, somehow working those two together more so.
Yeah. Thanks for adding that. So you would say that's a positive shift then that you've seen?
I think so. At the same time, I'd say anybody that joins us needs to come with those open hands before the Lord, open heart before the Lord, and say, okay, what do you have in mind for me? And I'm willing to trust you with what those
Yeah.
things look like. But there's something about being able to be known, somebody sees me, and then being able to talk about it. The relational leadership that Gordon was talking about is where a lot of those kind of conversations can happen. And I think that's so important.
Absolutely. So how do you guys interpret an organization's culture through the way it recruits? So we've talked about personalized and the professional, but how does that impact the way you view its culture?
Yeah, I was reflecting on this, just thinking about we love to make disciples who make disciples. And so if that is one of the key ways that we recruit, then that will be reflected in the culture of the organization. If we put adverts in, on the social media or whatever, draw people in who don't experience that, then that might present a challenge for us. But I think if the way you recruit and the sort of, yeah, this is a step of discipleship that you're investing in someone and you're, like we say, calling out the best in someone, but could be expressed with us in our organization. I love your story, Andrea, catching breakfast with somebody and getting alongside someone else and saying, I recognize something in you. And I think you would be great with us if God called you to join us. So I think, yeah, if discipleship is expressed in the way we recruit, then that's going to be really helpful to the culture of the organization as we grow.
Yeah.
I would say the other thing that struck that conversation with the initial staff member who said, "Oh, I have prayed for you," also told me something about the work. It told me something about how they invested their time and the fact that they were praying for us, to grow in Christ, to join the work if God was calling us. That told me something about the spiritual nature of what we're engaged in.
Yeah.
And even with MPD, as we're discipling other people in how that works and just modeling it and sharing the joys, the faith journey that we're on, and with the people maybe we are discipling around us, that sort of builds a sense of, this is what the faith journey looks like and can instill faith for that journey in others around us. I think MPD is a wonderful training ground for ministry anyway, on sharing our faith. And, if you can't do MPD, there's a possibility you may not be able to do personal ministry because there's a lot of similarities there. So I think even the recruitment around the idea of MPD, and like you're saying, Gordon, you were sort of, it was sprung on you a little bit that was even part of it. That's sort of one of the first conversations that may be needed is thinking about that. Yeah, I think that's key to the process as well.
Seeing faith as the operating principle is what you're talking about, right? And if you're involved in evangelism, discipleship, being discipled, you already have that in practice with the ministry. But then it just expands when you think about support raising and moving to a new place and engaging with an audience that you haven't engaged with before. That principle of faith, if it's showing up in the movement that you're a part of, it just feels like this is normal. Challenging as it might be, it has a normal feeling to it in terms of culture.
Kind of a sobering aspect of this question for me is the recruitment by example kind of thing that happens. And to try and put it in a positive way, I think people are more drawn to people who are thriving in what they're doing. And I think I've seen over the years, and unfortunately, in the recruiting aspect, I think it turns many people away when they don't see our staff being well. And so that really is sobering for me, besides fulfilling my calling. And am I enjoying my job? Am I thriving? Am I flourishing? It's important when we think about recruiting and bringing people to our team.
Yeah, thanks for adding that perspective, Kelly. I think that is important to know, and not that if people are struggling, we don't want them to just put on a facade and a
Mhm.
smile, but at the same time too, yeah, we want them to be getting the help they needed. We want them to be doing better. Because yeah, if they're talking to other people to say, "Hey, come join us," but this is killing me right now, like, that
Mhm.
does show the culture versus, "Hey, I might be struggling, but I'm seeing God move, and these are the things," like, that really, yeah, does impact people who see our organization and how they view us. Yeah, I thank you for adding that side.
Well, and maybe
Please.
speak a little more into it and going back a little bit to the previous question, but in our job, there can be such a high degree of flexibility, and that can be both wonderful. It can also be really dangerous, and we can not be good stewards of our time. And it's important to manage that flexibility.
Yeah.
I think coming with our generation, organization has been established 50 years, and we don't know who is Bill Bright, we don't know who is Warren Bright. But by the time we are in campuses, there are plenty of other student organizations. When we think of joining something, we definitely ask the senior staff, like the already existing staff, hey, how is your recruitment process went? How you got recruited? That we all go through reviews. Actually, our generation, we see the reviews, then only we okay, this is a good restaurant. This is a good place to go. For me also, I inquired many people. I inquired out of crew, inside crew. What do you think about these organizations? And I got some people said good reviews, some people had bad reviews. Ultimately, when the recruitment, when I asked the senior staff and the way they said, that showed us the culture of this organization. Like some organizations, there are people who never even met the president. But when I talked with older staff, they said, I had breakfast with Bill. I walked with Bill. I travel with Bill. So, oh, okay. So this is a servant leadership. So that gives us trust. Actually, I think culture is definitely important because that's how we, the current generation, we ask and inquire because there are plenty of options. I think 50 years back, 40 years back, there is maybe two organizations or two students. Now there are 50 student clubs, Christian clubs on campuses. So I think culture also definitely in the process of recruitment will also gives us many answers.
Thanks for adding that, Gordon. I like that you bring that perspective. Again, it was like your generation, it's like, yeah, how do you pick a restaurant? It's the one that has closest to 5 stars as possible, right? And
Mm,
so we don't have that on an app. Being able to talk to other staff to say like, "Yeah, do you like your
mm,
job? Or did you know,
mm,
like, the culture? What is it like? 5 stars,
mm,
0 stars?" Kind of a thing to kinda get you,
mm,
because like you said, there are a lot of options out there. And yeah, how do
mm,
you choose? But those personal stories are those reviews
mm.
that you get. Thanks for joining us today. I hope it was eye-opening for you to see the similarities and differences each generation brings to the recruitment process. I know I learned a lot from our panelists. Make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcasts so you don't miss our next episode, where we continue our conversation with our 4 panelists on the application and onboarding processes. You don't want to miss it. See you next time.